Everyone knows that MCPs is a massive opportunity, but what no one actually talks about is how to actually make money from this opportunity. We've seen tons of those marketplaces where people spend hours of their time building these MCP servers that now bring tremendous value to others, but no one actually got paid for it in the end. So this is why I decided to release this video now and explain why this is such a massive opportunity, provide you with a complete guide to making money with MCPs today, and even show you how to build a real MCP paid server with authentication at the end. So this server literally enables your agents to send the Stripe link directly to the end user, prompting them to pay a subscription or a usage-based price in order to continue using it, which is honestly insane. So let's get started. Let's start from a brief MCP crash course, starting with the first thing you need to know, which is what exactly are MCPs. And the most common definition that you've probably heard is that MCPs is like a USB-C port for AI applications, right? It's a way for you to simply connect your agents to tools. However, what many people missed is that it's actually not even the protocol itself. It's the fact that this protocol now has been adopted as the new standard in the AI industry. This means that now everyone is actually using it to build agentic systems. And this is what makes it so powerful. Because everyone is now using it, it means that we developers now are able to better collaborate and share our tools with others. So take, for example, platforms like Relevance or Lindy. They raised millions of dollars on building connectors to all of those popular tools like G Drive, but open source community was able to build 10,000 of these connectors in just a few months. But why is this such a massive opportunity and why now? Well, as Andrei Karpathy mentioned in one of his latest lectures, right now we have a new emerging category of software on GitHub, which is LLMs. LLMs is a new type of software, and what it enables us to do is to interact with technology in a much more natural way. So this means that today we really don't have to build all of those super complicated UIs in order to distribute our products. We can simply build them on the backend, which is what MCPs connect to, and then simply distribute them to AI agents instead. And then these AI agents will be able to use our product for us. But not only it makes it easier for you to actually create a working product, but it also increases your distribution. In order to use a tool like HubSpot, you need a salesperson, while in order to use a HubSpot through an MCP server, you don't need anyone because the agent will just use your CRM for you. So it will be infinitely more scalable. And why right now is because, well, no one is still doing this, right? The popularity of MCPs is still growing consistently, but there are still very few people who actually monetized it. And if we look back to when OpenAPI protocol was released, which is the same thing as MCPs, but for developers, tons of people actually made big money from it. Developers are simply distributing APIs to other developers, and they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars per month. And so the same thing is going to happen with MCPs, but with AI agents. Pretty much all platforms like Anthropic, Cursor, Windsurf, OpenAI, and even Windows already support it. So today, you can even create an MCP for Windows and allow agents to control apps like Word or Excel, which is something that we're going to talk about in a bit. But right now, let's actually take a look at some real success stories. So the most notable success story is 21st.dev Magic AI Agent. This AI agent actually reached 400K MRR just through MCPs, and it allows us to build web applications like Lovable or Bold.new, but directly from other IDEs like Cursor or Windsurf. Another example is Magic UI, which has a similar approach. It allows the agent to fetch some pre-built components for user interfaces. So I actually couldn't find more case studies than these two, but what it seems like is that right now many people are simply utilizing those MCPs to connect to existing products. Like, for example, Notion released an MCP, or GitHub released a hosted MCP, and even Reddit. So you see, right now I believe that the most value has been generated in simply consulting those platforms and implementing MCP servers for them. But on the next stage, what I'm sure that we're going to see is real products built on top of MCP protocol specifically for AI agents. So we can actually relate this to other API products that were built for developers in the previous web revolution, which is products like Stripe, a payment processing API for developers, Twilio, which is a communication platform, and Plate, which is a platform for banking data. So all of these platforms operate solely through APIs, and they allow developers to simply build applications on top of them. So I think the same thing again is going to happen with MCPs, where we will have products that are made specifically for AI agents, and the AI agents will be using them in order to perform certain tasks. So here are some MCP business ideas that I came up with that you can build literally today. Number one, improve my prompt MCP. This is the MCP that we will be building at the end of this video. And essentially what it does is it takes the prompt from the user, it sends it through another LLM that uses another special prompt that recently went viral on Reddit, and then it returns back the improved prompt. So pretty simple, but nevertheless a very cool use case. Number two, proprietary data MCPs. So those are MCPs that are based on your own proprietary data sources. One notable example of such an MCP is Context 7. So although it's not like exactly proprietary data, what they did is they just scraped all of the documentations for all coding platforms and then they combined it together, which obviously makes it way more valuable. So you can do the same principle for your own proprietary data sources. Like for example, you can create an MCP that combines all of the legal data sources, that combines some sources for lead sourcing, like for example, Apollo, and then also MCPs for doing things like trading. Number three, business process MCPs. So these, I think, are actually the biggest opportunity right now. It's MCP servers that are aimed to automate a specific business process. For example, you can build an MCP server that allows the agent to repost certain content across all social media platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. What makes this server really valuable is that number one, again, you're not just taking one API, you're combining multiple APIs together in a single tool that allows the agent to repost to any platform. And then you can actually even add some of your own custom logic inside. Like, for example, you can add a scheduling post functionality, which is obviously something that those default APIs for these platforms do not provide. Number four, Windows MCP. So as I said, Windows has recently released an MCP server as well, which is super exciting because you can create real computer using agents that will automate real business tasks. Okay, the last example is internal MCPs. So internal MCPs are MCPs made specifically for businesses in certain industries. So although you would most likely not want to distribute it on an open marketplace, you can still make a lot of money from this MCP by charging either a one-time setup fee or a licensing fee. Okay, so now I'm pretty sure you have some ideas for which MCP you want to create. So next, let's do a very quick idea reality check. The first question you need to ask yourself is, do I have any specialized knowledge or data? You see, in order to create a moat in the MCP space, you shouldn't just take like any API available because obviously that's super simple to rebuild. You need to either combine multiple APIs together or you need to provide certain data files in your MCP that are hard to access otherwise. Question number two, is it going to be used repeatedly and does it solve a specific problem? With MCPs, just like with any other product, you need to ensure that the users actually come back to it for more. And the last question is, does it form a habit? So in a book called Hooked, which is basically like a Bible for startups, the authors show that the best products actually do not just make their users come back to them, they actually form a habit. They come back craving for more. And the same thing, I think, can be applied with MCPs, but for AI agents. For example, you can even make your MCP prompt the agent in order to remember when to use your MCP server. Okay, so now what are the pricing models that you can charge with MCPs? Number one is usage-based. So usage-based model essentially means you're charging per request or per number of tokens that your MCP consumes. The usage-based model is actually quite common with API marketplaces. Number two, and this is by the way not common with APIs because MCPs do not just give you the tools, they automate the entire process. So for MCPs, unlike for standard APIs, you can actually charge a monthly price just like for any other product. So you can charge your users like $20 per month in order to keep using your MCP. Number 3, affiliate or referrals. So with some MCPs, you can actually also charge a referral commission. Like for example, there's one MCP that also recently went viral, which is Amazon Product Search MCP. And if I was building that MCP, I would simply use my own referral link so that anytime some agent purchases a product from that MCP, I will get paid as well. And number 4 is licensing, which is the best pricing model for internal MCPs that you build specifically for certain businesses. Okay, now before we jump into the tutorial, let me actually present you with the best tips and tricks for building and monetizing an MCP server. Number 1, focus on just one use case. Don't over-engineer it, just solve one specific problem in the beginning, start from an MVP, and only then expand as necessary. Number 2, collect email addresses. So make sure that your MCP server actually collects emails, because through these emails, you can then send reactivation campaigns later. Our MCP that we will build at the end actually does exactly that with authentication. Number 3, offer a free tier. So free tiers are absolutely essential with MCPs because unlike SaaS products, MCPs typically don't even have a landing page or a UI that the user can click. So in order to see the quality of your server, of course, the agent needs to use it first. Number 4, offer great documentation with lots of examples. So today, while it's still early, most likely it's the developers who are going to be plugging in your MCP into their agents. And for developers, documentation is the product. So make sure you actually spend a lot of time on documentation and that the other developers can easily take this documentation and use it in their own applications. Number 5, create a tool for feedback. So actually, this is a pretty cool technique that you can do really fast. You can add a tool in your MCP server and ask the agent to collect some feedback from the user or even the agent itself. So this tool is actually pretty simple, and all it needs to do is just save that feedback into a database. And then you can analyze this feedback with other LLM. And number 6, build in public. So because again, it's still so early, if you actually do this in public, you will get a lot of traction. And I have just actually recently saw someone on Twitter do exactly that while I was recording this video. Seems like this guy built an MCP server for vibe coding, which improves the end-to-end testing and feedback loop for AI agents. Okay, now let's quickly combine all of this together in a go-to-market playbook that you can follow right now. So number 1, create an MCP that solves one specific problem. Number 2, offer a free trial, like for example, 5 free requests. Number 3, charge $20 per month or more for increased usage. Number 4, market on communities like GitHub, Discord, Reddit, and post it on marketplaces like MCP.so, Klein, MCP Market, Smithery, Glama, and others. Number 5, document your experience. Vlog the entire thing on Twitter or any other social media platform. Number 6, listen to feedback. Listen to feedback by your users and improve your product accordingly. And number 7, ship updates. Ship updates as soon as you can and make sure that you notify your users via emails. Okay, now let's jump into it and let me actually show you how to create your own MCP server with Stripe payments and authentication. If you also want to see how to create an internal type of a server that you would charge a licensing or a one-time setup fee for, head out to our school community where I will soon post a tutorial on that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be using MCP boilerplate repo for this video. And this repo was created by Ian. And Ian actually has also an extremely impressive background. He actually sold a bunch of startups. He made a bunch of exits and he's developing like a lot of cool things. So you can see like his portfolio. So huge shout out to Ian. So let's now get started. So the first step is of course going to be to clone this repository. Additionally, make sure to create your Cloudflare account because this is actually required for this video. And lastly, you will also need a Stripe account. I definitely recommend everyone to open a Stripe account because this is your gateway to actually making money online. However, to do this, you need to have an entity either in United States or somewhere else in one of the supported countries, which is honestly not that hard to get. In Stripe, they actually also have a service called Stripe Atlas, where you can open such an entity for just $500. And in the meantime, you can still use Stripe, you can still create an account. You're just going to be using it in test mode. Okay, so now let's actually jump into the code base and let's get going. So the first step is to simply run npm install to install all of the packages. Make sure you also have a Node.js installed. Simply ask ChatGPT if you don't know how to do that. Now we need to install one of Cloudflare's tool called Wrangler. And finally, we need to create a new database in Cloudflare for user logins. So this is where essentially this repo is going to store your user details and all of the credentials. So this will open a Cloudflare page like this, and then you can just hit allow to sign in with Wrangler. Perfect. Now we just need to copy this output from this command, and then we need to add it into wrangler.json file. Okay, now let's copy the environment file. Okay, next we also need to create a Google Cloud project. So if you don't already have one, that's definitely also a good idea. Google Cloud has a bunch of services that you might need when building AI agents. Then under APIs and services, find credentials and click create credentials. Then select auth client ID. Seems like they don't have MCP servers yet. So let's just select web application. Name it as the name of your MCP. Then under authorized redirect URIs, enter localhost 8787/callback/Google and hit create. Perfect. So now download the JSON secret key and click OK. For the type, make sure to select external. Okay, now let's jump back into cursor, and then here we need to add our client ID and client secret that we just downloaded from Google. By the way, if you prefer, you can also set up GitHub login for this repo. I'm not going to go through this in this video, but the steps are in a README. Now let's sign in on Stripe and let's create our prices. So Stripe just recently also introduced sandboxes, which is a new way for you to test your integrations without the fear of messing up your real user data. So let's create a new sandbox and let's start a new account from scratch and call it MCP prompt generator. Perfect. As you can see, this is like a completely new account where I don't have to worry about anything going wrong. So let's go under product catalog, and then here let's create our product. The name of the product can also be just like the name of your MCP server. For the price, make sure you also select recurring and then enter your recurring monthly amount. Hit add product. And now we also need to create a few prices. So navigate into that product and then here on pricing, hit plus. Now let's create a usage-based price. So usage-based pricing is also under recurring, under the choose your pricing model selector. You can keep it as per unit, and then under the amount, simply enter the amount that is going to cost for your users to run your MCP tool once. So I think for my MCP, around 20 cents per usage is reasonable, especially if we want our users to later convert to a monthly price. Now let's create our meter. So a meter in Stripe is essentially how Stripe is going to aggregate your usage. So you can select various options like the sum, count, and last, and each one is going to depend on your specific use case. For example, if you're selecting sum, most likely this is going to be the best for token-based billing, because essentially Stripe is going to just sum up all of your events together, and then this is going to determine the end price. However, for my use case, I think count is going to make the most sense because I'm not summing up all of the requests. Instead, I'm just counting all of the requests that the user has made, and then I'm charging 20 cents for each one. So let's call it request counter, and the event name is going to be simply a new request. Let's click create meter and then create price. Perfect. So now we have these two prices activated. And the next step is to simply copy the price, the product IDs, your secrets, and put them back into the environment variables. So you can find your price ID here on top. And then in the environment variables, you need to insert it into the environment variable accordingly. Okay, now we also need to configure a billing portal so that our customers can actually manage their subscriptions. So you can find this under settings, billing, customer portal. So click activate test link, and now you'll see the billing Stripe portal link. However, this repo will manage this automatically for you. Under subscriptions, you can also allow users to switch plans by enabling this option. Now let's hit save changes. And then if you also want to customize it later for your specific branding, you can do this under business branding. And the last environment variable that we need to add is the cookie encryption key. So for this, you can just ask ChatGPT to generate a 32 random string. Okay, now we are basically ready to test this. So let's open the terminal and then let's simply run npx wrangler dev. Perfect. Now as you can see, we got our localhost URL running. So our Stripe MCP is now live. So the way we can test it is by simply adding it to Cursor. So you can open Cursor settings and then under tools and integrations, you can hit add a new MCP server and then simply add it in the config. And now as you can see, we get the sign in link from Cloudflare. So we can just hit login with Google and then sign in with our Google account. Perfect. And now as you can see, we have 6 tools enabled. So let's, for example, ask Cursor to check our payment history. So as you can see, the check payment history tool worked correctly. However, right now we don't have an account since we haven't made any payments yet. So this is what we're going to do next. I'm going to show you how to actually create your tools and also add billing to these tools. So the author of this repo has already created a rules file for Cursor, which allows us to build tools super fast. So let me simply open Cursor in a new chat. And now let me actually work on my prompt. So here's the prompt that went viral on Twitter that I'm going to use in order to improve other prompts. So in order to use this prompt, you need to provide the unedited prompt. Then you need to specify the target AI platform and also the prompt style, which can be detail or basic. So I'm going to just copy this entire thing and then I'm going to insert it into Cursor and then I'm going to tell it that I need this tool with 3 parameters, which are exactly that 3 parameters: the unedited prompt, the level of detail, and the target AI platform. And then also don't forget to attach the rules file. And additionally, I suggest to tell Cursor to use one of the tools as an example. So most of you are probably already familiar with the latest AI coding IDEs and tools like Cloud Code. Obviously, for these purposes, you can use whichever tool or IDE that you prefer. And this is actually where your AI coding skills might become really valuable. So let's check the code. As you can see, it just used the incorrect model name. So let's change it to GPT 4.1. So now let's reload the dev environment and then also let's reload the Stripe tools. Perfect. Now as you can see, we have one more optimized prompt tool. So we can go back to the same chat and then tell Cursor to test it. Incredible. As you can see, the tool now opens a subscription payment link for me. So now the next step for me is to enter my credit card before I can actually use it. This is just insane. I mean, as I said before, with this setup, you actually don't even need a UI to create a real SaaS product. And it's not just a SaaS product. I think this is like a next iteration of a SaaS product where in the future, as agents become more and more autonomous, they will just use your SaaS product for you without any user intervention whatsoever. So for Stripe, there are some Stripe test cards, which you can search for on Stripe documentation. And then you can just simply copy the numbers. So let's use one of these test cards. For the date, you can enter any date in the future. And CVC also can be anything. So let's hit subscribe. Awesome. Now our subscription is activated. So let's get back to Cursor and tell it that we've activated this subscription. Incredible. As you can see now, the tool actually returns my optimized prompt with the changes. Like for example, it added role assignment, it specified step-by-step format, clarified audience, and included ingredients and daily process. This is just insane. I mean, this is already like almost a working product. So I'll leave all the links down below. Huge shout out to Ian for making this amazing GitHub repo. Make sure to give him a follow on Twitter. And he also actually even has a great YouTube channel where he makes practical Cloud Code tutorials. So if you want to see him on my channel, sharing his experience about building and exiting such incredible indie dev products, make sure to go to his channel and actually comment under one of his videos to schedule a podcast with me. Thank you all for watching and see you next time.